What's up guys, my name is Ace, and welcome back to The Breakdown, the series where I analyze gameplay to help you improve. In today's episode, we're going to be analyzing a ghost gameplay on Warhawk from ballboy77. Let's get into it. Alright guys, before we get into this, I'm going to say this is not a very good gameplay, and the guy that uploaded it for me, he knows it's a poor gameplay. It was actually labeled poor gameplay, but having said that, he was brave enough to upload this so that I could analyze it to help him and also you guys improve. So I don't want to see any negative comments geared towards the guy that uploaded this or the gameplay itself. So if you guys can refrain from that, that would be awesome. Everybody has to start from somewhere. Alright, so first off, I want to have a look at the class that he decides to use. Now he's playing Domination on Warhawk, and he decides to use the Vector CRB with a red dot and a grip. And so far, so good. That's looking great. It's a really powerful gun, and good attachments to put on that gun. As for his lethal and tactical, the Semtex is not a bad choice at all for Domination, because you can always throw that towards a flag, and it might save you a flag every now and then. As for the tactical, I find the 9-bang just takes way too long to cook, and for me personally anyways, I find that I die more often trying to throw a 9-bang than I actually get kills as a result of that 9-bang. So I don't really recommend using a 9-bang, but that's really up to you. As for perks, we have Ready Up, which is looking good so far. Ready Up's a great option, especially on an SMG. Quick Draw, which I don't really recommend on an SMG. SMGs already aim down sight very quickly, so I find Quick Draw is not really all that necessary because it just gives you a little boost, and it is worth 3 points, and I feel like those 3 points could be better spent elsewhere. Next, we have Amplify, which is a good choice, especially if he's using a headset. Focus, which is definitely a good choice. That's something that is basically a must-have perk if you want to win any gunfights. And then we have Gambler, which I'm personally not a huge fan of, but if you want to use it, you can use it. I'd personally prefer using something that I know is going to work for me, so I don't just get like on the go or something, which actually prevents me from reloading really quickly by reload canceling. I really don't like getting that, so I'd rather go with a perk like Takedown that I know is going to be working for me, or possibly Strong Arm since you are using a Semtex. That would be a good option as well. As for the strike package, after watching this gameplay, Support is a really good choice for this guy. He doesn't really have the confidence to go on any kill streaks, like longer kill streaks, so using Assault or Specialist really isn't a smart choice for him. So Support is a great place to start. Okay, so finally getting into the gameplay here, he uses cover great right here off the opening route. He uses his truck for cover, but the only problem is he's using an SMG, and that's a longer line of sight. He should not be challenging this. He is not playing to the strengths of his weapon, and this is what gets him killed. Also, he strafed right out into the open and had no chance of getting to cover. It was clear he was going to die here. As he comes off of spawn, he pushes back towards where he knows the enemies are, and he actually set himself up quite nicely for this gunfight. The only issue was his aim was kind of all over the place. He positioned himself to where he should have won this gunfight. The Vector has a clear advantage over the Remington at that range, and he shot at his enemy before his enemy shot at him. The only problem was his accuracy. So I will leave a link to the accuracy drill that I've done in the description below. I recommend trying this accuracy drill out, and it'll really help you get a good feel for the controller and hitting your targets more consistently. Now, after spawning back in, after being killed by that nade, not a big deal. It happens in Domination. Sometimes you get naded off flags, and it's just something you have to kind of live with. He's pushing on this side of the map, and again, he's trying to use a long line of sight with an SMG. He should be hugging corners and getting as close to his enemies as possible. And here, once again, he actually had the advantage in this gunfight, but his aim was just off, and he lost because of that. And as he spawns in, there's something that I actually really like about his gameplay. He keeps his sights up and where he expects enemies to be coming from. And it seems like he has decent map awareness. He knows which direction the enemies should be coming from. So that's really good. I believe he just has to work a little bit more on the fundamentals of accuracy and winning gunfights. So once again, as he spawns back in here, there's another issue that I noticed, and it's coming up right away. He actually pauses in this doorway right out in the open with no cover. This is a place that you never want to be just hanging out. This is an area that you pass through rather than stand in. All it would take is an enemy to come up to the barrel that's slightly on the left side of his screen right now. You can't quite see it. It's just off the screen to his left. If an enemy came to that barrel, he has almost no chance of winning a gunfight against that guy. Likewise, the doorway that he's aiming at right now into where the ambulance is, if an enemy comes out of that door, This is basically a 50-50 gunfight at that point. Neither of you have cover, and you don't want that. You want to have the advantage in the gunfight. So instead of standing here, I would have pushed up to cover and pushed up maybe to that barrel to try and get an advantage against somebody that would be coming from the water tower area. So don't linger in the open like this, even if you are aiming down sight at where you expect the enemies to be coming from. So skipping ahead a little bit, this is something that I noticed that he does also that I don't really like, and I feel like he's kind of wasting time with. He lingers around a lot and he doesn't move too much. He's always aiming down sight and ready. And I think there is a point where you're aiming down sight a little bit too much, especially when you're using an SMG. Instead of sprinting from cover to cover and being really aggressive with his enemy, he kind of lingers out in the open and hopes that him aiming down sight first is going to win him the gunfight. That's mostly not the case, especially when your enemies have superior gun skill. You need to be using cover to your advantage. Right here is actually a really good example of this. As he's pushing up through this long line of sight, he's walking the entire time. You shouldn't be walking with an SMG here. All it takes is for an enemy to pop out and you're dead because you have no cover. You want to minimize the amount of time that you're exposing yourself to a long line of sight while using an SMG. You have to be aggressive, you have to hug the wall and try and cut off those longer lines of sight. Okay, so the gameplay actually jumps ahead, like quite a bit ahead into this match, and this is just the way he sent it to me. So there's a big chunk of the gameplay missing, which is fine because there's still lots to analyze. So now he's using a K7. I'm not too sure what else he has on his class, but you can see here he's checking his corners nicely. I wouldn't necessarily linger in this doorway, but he knows there are enemies up in this top story. So I like the way he approaches this, nice and slow, aiming down sight as he comes around here. However, if they would have been prepared for him, it's likely he would have died because he came around that corner so slowly. They would have seen his elbow come around the corner and then they would have seen the rest of his body and they could have easily just pre-fired him and he wouldn't have had a chance. Now right here, it was actually a really good decision to hip fire against these guys. When you're that close, hip fire is quite effective, so nothing wrong with that, and it's kind of unfortunate he got knifed there, but that happens and that just has to do with reaction time. So that's pretty much going to wrap up this analysis. Some overall tips is don't linger out in the open when you have an SMG. You want to be moving from cover to cover as fast as possible and cutting off long lines of sight. And also be aggressive instead of passive when you're using an SMG. If you're lingering and waiting for the enemy to come to you and you're out in the open, you're going to get killed most of the time if you're using an SMG. That's better suited to an assault rifle class or an LMG class. Also, one thing that I haven't really mentioned yet is you didn't really seem to play the objective at all. And because of this, I actually recommend with your playstyle that you stick to something like TDM at least for now until you build up some more confidence in your gunfights, and then go into an objective game mode. With an objective game mode, you are likely going to get stomped on quite a bit by people that really know what they're doing. The one thing that I really like about your gameplay is you almost always seem to know what's going on around you, and you almost always knew exactly where the enemies were going to be coming from. Unfortunately, your gun skill just kind of fell short a little bit, and this just comes down to a lot of practice and getting a really good feel for the controller and your sensitivity, possibly even consider lowering your sensitivity a little bit, and I highly recommend doing some of the drills that I will link in the description below. So I have a drill that'll help you hit more consecutive shots more consistently, and then I have another drill that will help you improve your reaction time, and it'll also help you quite a bit with rushing around the map and being really aggressive. If you were to do these drills as often as you can, so maybe every time you jump on to play, do one of these drills for 10 minutes before you jump into a real game, or maybe 20 minutes. I can guarantee if you do this, your gameplay will improve a lot, because you really do seem to be ready for gunfights, and it is just that gun skill that's lacking a little bit. So that's going to wrap it up for today's episode of The Breakdown. If you have any gameplays that you'd like me to analyze, keep in mind I'm looking for more average to below average gameplays. If you have some gameplays like that are in at least 720p, then please feel free to send me a link to an unlisted YouTube video to my email address, which I will leave in the description below. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.